My God, he's done it. Billy Napier has stolen Robert Bala from the Washington Huskies.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Thursday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, just code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. And we went live yesterday to discuss this, but we're going to discuss this once again today. And we might even, I think tomorrow, we might try to get a Washington guest on and discuss this a little bit further. Someone that's actually been boots on the ground with the Washington football team. So we might try to get that one sorted out. We'll see if we can make it happen. But yesterday, the Florida Gators hired Robert Bala. And before we even talk about Robert Bala himself, I do want to talk about how late last week, it was either Friday or Saturday, that we got the report that, hey, Florida has Tim Skipper on campus and they're interviewing him. And then yesterday morning, it was, hey, Florida has Robert Bala on campus and they're interviewing him for the same role as Tim Skipper. And I personally thought that we would be getting a decision today. When you got those two interviews that got set up, personally, I thought we were going to get that decision today. We didn't. We got the decision yesterday. And also, it wasn't super late yesterday, right? It was like 5:36 p.m. Eastern time, around that time when we got that announcement, which wild, considering that, it was just that morning that we got word that, hey, he's on campus for an interview. But to me, and perhaps I'm reading into this poorly, but that's on Locked On Gators. Sometimes we're going to be wrong, right? We're going to be wrong with things because we actually give opinions and take stances on things here. It's not just what other people tell us. So sometimes we're going to be wrong. So maybe it was me reading into that poorly. But I will also say that, to me, the fact that he got hired the same day he did the interview, I feel like that means he had to nail the interview, right? I'm not even saying the resume, the reputation, any of that. I'm just saying I feel like that means he had to nail the interview, right? Guy that is the other candidate is a former Florida Gators running backs coach, former Florida Gators linebackers coach, and that's who you're competing against. A guy with head coach experience. And for you to come in and win that job on the day you do the interview, I feel like that's a good indicator that you absolutely crushed it, right? Robert Bala was the linebackers coach at Washington last season. The year prior, he was the inside linebackers coach with Alabama. And also, Florida also does the inside linebacker, outside linebacker specification. It's basically off-ball linebacker or edge rusher. That's the better way to put it. So like Mike Peterson is the outside linebackers coach for the University of Florida, and Robert Bala inside linebackers coach. And I will say this as well, and we spoke about this yesterday. Robert Bala, or let's go back even another step further. And I'm pretty sure I did this the same way yesterday too. I kind of screwed up the beginning, which is fine. But Pete Golding was Alabama's defensive coordinator. Pete Golding hired Austin Armstrong to be the linebackers coach at the University of Alabama when Austin Armstrong was the defensive coordinator at Southern Miss. So Pete Golding hired him to be the linebackers coach at Alabama. And of course, if you can go from the G5 to Alabama, heir apparent as defensive coordinator coach under Saban, you're going to do it. That's a smart choice. And so Austin Armstrong went to Alabama. And then Pete Golding took the job at Ole Miss. Pete Golding took the defensive coordinator job at Ole Miss. And then Nick Saban essentially went, hey, I don't really care for the Golding hires. Like if they stay, they stay, but they're not really my jazz. They don't really fit in certain ways. I'm not a big fan of it. You guys can go look for jobs elsewhere if you can get it. And that's when Austin Armstrong got the defensive coordinator job at the University of Florida. So, which I said this yesterday during the live, and I'm like, I don't even know how public that information is, but it's information. So that's how Austin Armstrong got the job at Florida, or how he was available for the job at Florida. That's how it worked. But then when Austin Armstrong left, Nick Saban went to hire his guys, and his guy for the job, for the linebacker job at the University of Alabama, was Robert Bala. And so I will also say that if Nick Saban looks at you and says, hey, you can be my linebackers coach, and I picked you to be my linebackers coach, you're probably a pretty good linebackers coach. And there are a lot of people that have complained about Robert Bala being inexperienced. There's never been any falser claim made. Robert Bala has plenty of experience, just not at the power forward level. Okay. When you look at Robert Bala's experience, he in 2009 at Snow College was a linebackers coach. Into 2009 and 2010, linebackers coach at Snow College. 2011 through 2013, he was the DC at Palomar College. 2014, he was an intern with the Oakland Raiders. 2015 and 16, he was a defensive coordinator again with Palomar College. 2017, he became the special teams coordinator at Ottawa College in Kansas. 2018 through 2021, he was the defensive coordinator at Southern Utah. 2022, he was an analyst at Liberty. 2023, Nick Saban hired him to be the linebackers coach at the University of Florida. And then in 2024, he's the inside linebackers coach at Washington. 2025, inside linebackers coach and co-DC at the University of Florida. So that's his resume. I will say this as well. I genuinely could not give less of a damn about the co-DC title. He's got 2 co-DCs and a DC. I don't give a damn. It's all about the money. Like, you're just making yourself look like a crybaby. It's a title. Get over it. It's just about the money. It's fine. None of us really truly care about that kind of stuff. And I'll say that. I don't know how much a coach should make. That's not for me to decide. Let Billy handle that and fill out the staff. I will say that I also spoke with multiple people at Washington that loved him. One gave me a response that I cannot repeat on the air word for word, or I cannot repeat on the record word for word, but I will say it went something along the lines of, I'm going to end it all if he leaves. That was basically the response that I get, which the last time I got a response like that, it went really well for Florida. Because the last time that I got a response like that was last year when Billy Napier hired Gerald Chapman from Tulane. That was the last time I got a response on that level. So, kind of cool, right? Those responses have been great for us, so I'll take it. I'm fine with it. And I will say that the Florida Gators, most of their coaching staff is wrapped up. They are allowed to add as many coaches as they want now that the new rules have gone into place where you can have basically as many position coaches as you want. So now that those rules have officially gone into place, you can have, an extra linebackers coach, which right now you've already got more coaches than you had last year. And you can do that, which, yippee! Now that those rules have taken place, we are going to talk about the offensive coaching staff, which is basically finalized when we get back with Locked On Gators. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be an absolute headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. So let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and I've been very open about it, right? I went to Utah at Florida in 2022 using Game Time. I went to last year alone. In 2024, I went to 5 sports events and 5 concerts. Yeah. So 10, all using Game Time, and had a blast at every single one of them, except when the Mets almost got no hit. That one sucked. If you're ready to make your next event even better, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And the Florida Gators coaching staff is practically wrapped up. We're going to talk about the offensive one for the next, or the offensive staff for the next few minutes. First off, offensive coordinator Russ Callaway. He is expected to get the OC title tag. It's tough to know when things are officially official, we'll say. But Russ Callaway getting the OC tag is the most likely outcome here, which I've got no issue with it. I'm fine with it. Actually, I have one issue with it, and that issue is that he is an offensive coordinator that is not calling plays. And I hate that. I do. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I hate that. I hate that Billy is calling plays. That's my biggest gripe. And also, I know people are going to mention about, why do you always talk about that? It's relevant. It's relevant that Billy's calling plays for Florida. And I forgot who it was in my comments yesterday or 2 days ago, talking about, don't bring in an OC. Then you got to change everything. And then DJ Lagway gets regressed. No, I just want a different person calling plays. You could keep the scheme the exact same. I just want a different person calling plays. That's it. So nope, nobody gets regression from that at all. Not a good rebuttal. You lose. I am curious to see what happens with tight ends coach. Florida does not have an analyst listed as offensive analyst - tight ends, which is how they usually do it with positions. It'll be offensive analyst - quarterbacks, receivers, whatever it may be. The guy that is right now, I believe his official title is quality control quarterbacks, might be offensive analyst quarterbacks, is Justin Postuma, which Coach Post was with the tight ends in 2022 and 2023, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe he would be the guy to get the call up if they do decide to say, hey, we're going to get a tight ends coach. They could also look elsewhere, right? Like, there's plenty of tight end coaches available that you can look for and say, hey, that's going to be our guy. But right now, Russ Callaway is your offensive coordinator. Rob Sale and Jonathan DeCoster are your offensive line coaches, but Rob Sale is essentially taking a demotion, we've been told, where he is dropping the co-OC tag, which for him wasn't very helpful to begin with. But I will say that both Rob Sale and Jonathan DeCoster, I can't say too much about Jonathan DeCoster, but I can say that it's not like the offensive line's been great, right? I understand that Rob Sale has 2 All-American offensive linemen since he's been here. I understand that. I respect it. I do. However, I will also acknowledge that while those 2 individuals, as in Osiris Torrance and Jake Slaughter, have been fantastic developmental stories, that they both earned those All-American honors, they both earned those bricks, I will say that. I'm not taking anything away from them. I am saying that those individual honors do not mean that you had a good offensive line. And the individual honors, obviously, for me, mean nothing, because I'm the guy that always goes out there and I say, hey, you know what's more important than having good offensive linemen? Having an offensive line that can play well together. Because to me, that's significantly more important. I always bring up the story of, I'm a Giants fan. When they were winning Super Bowls, it was that they had not good offensive line men, or not all pro offensive line men. It's that they had great offensive line play as a unit. And that is the thing. And so that has, sure, skewed my view about offensive line play. But for me, I look more at the actual offensive line play as a unit as opposed to the individual. And you look at what the offensive line has looked like since Billy Napier's been hired, and it's not like it's been amazing, right? The pressures generated or the pressures allowed are roughly the same. The big difference is sacks taken, and that is usually an indicator of your quarterback. Anthony Richardson, mobile, big QB, didn't take many sacks. Got pressured a lot, though. Graham Mertz, not mobile, not big. He's not a tank like AR or DJ Lagway. Took a lot of sacks. Couldn't escape pressure. DJ Lagway, big tank, got pressured, didn't get sacked much. So a lot of the sacks is the quarterback stuff, sure, but the pressures have been pretty consistent with the offensive line. Not saying it's bad. It's not been awesome, right? So I don't blame Billy Napier for demoting Rob Sale essentially from co-OC because it's kind of like a focus on the O-line. Like, you've already taken a demotion. You need to focus on the O-line or we're going to get rid of you, is how I look at it. Quarterbacks coach is Ryan O'Hara. I know that he's been listed as offensive analyst quarterbacks, but I mean, this has been the worst kept secret on the planet for years now, right? Like, Billy Napier in press conferences has just been like, yeah, Ryan O'Hara's our quarterbacks coach. He's the guy. Sure. Like, he's been so open about it. So yeah, Ryan O'Hara is the quarterbacks coach. He's been the guy. He's going to continue being the guy. He is. I want to say that every quarterback that visits, you see them spend a ton of time with Ryan O'Hara. And I don't think I've ever met Ryan O'Hara. Maybe in passing, but I don't even know if we have then. But he is just a hell of a QB coach. He is. I don't care how anybody else feels. I feel like he's a hell of a QB coach. Running backs coach, Jabbar Juluke, he's back. Love him. I've been very open about that. I know that there is a loud minority of the fan base that thinks that you should upgrade running backs coach. Thinks that, what they've been doing isn't enough. I disagree. I think Jabbar Juluke's done a fantastic job. I don't care about rankings of the recruits that he brings in. He brought in multiple true freshmen, as in, like, in the 3 years he's been here. Every year he's had a true freshman come in and contribute at running back. To do that consistently in the SEC, I feel like you deserve your flowers there. So Jabbar Juluke, good in my book. I have no complaints there. And I also just like the way Jabbar Juluke recruits and evaluates running backs. I feel like he does a hell of a job of looking at what's important, right? A lot of it's like looking at the vision, contact balance. Can you make a man miss here and there? Can you fight through contact? What is it? And you look at that and you go, okay, he's getting productive backs consistently. He doesn't care about their ranking. He doesn't care if they're just like speed demons. If you can't find the lane, you can't hit the lane, right? So stuff like that. I think Jabbar Juluke does a great job. Receivers coach is a spot that I really wanted Florida to upgrade this offseason. However, I will say, and I said this before we got word that Billy Gonzalez was back, if you can keep both Chad Lucas and David Decker, I'm okay with it. I get frustrated because I feel like you could have upgraded that wide receiver coach position and kept them, and you could have just given yourself a better competition. You could have given yourself a better opportunity to battle, and you didn't, and that frustrates the hell out of me, if we're being honest. But you brought him back. You maintained Chad Lucas and David Decker, and so for that, I can't be too mad about it. I do think you should have moved up. I do think you should have upgraded. I would have personally. I think that there were many options and many ways to do it. I've been not super shy. I don't think Billy Gonzalez is a great coach right now. You look at the best receivers that come in and they're portal guys. The most productive receivers that come in are portal guys. We've seen very few freshmen or high school recruits come in and contribute the way that they probably should be, at least according to their ranking or what we think of their talent. It's kind of rare. And I was not someone that hated the Billy G hire when he got hired. I was someone that was like, yeah, no, I'm cool with it. He's a great developer. Just not so much anymore. And so that's why I would think that you would upgrade receiver coach, but you didn't. And we move on. We are going to talk about the defensive staff to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Gators when we get back. The big game's almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports with over 10 million members and billions with a B in winnings awarded. Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. So here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Pair that with one more correct pick, and you're cashing out with profit. It's a pretty nice thing, right? Like, you can look at Travis Kelce's yards. You can look at Saquon Barkley's yards. Like, probably going to have a pretty good game, right? Gotta figure that he'll have a pretty good game. Dallas Goedert, maybe. There's options. There's options out there. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And to wrap up today's show, we're going to go through the defense right now. And we've got defensive coordinator Ron Roberts. He is not tied to a position. He is strictly a walk around DC, hovering DC, rotating DC, whatever people want to give the title to. Ron Roberts just runs the defense, calls the plays. He'll probably go wherever he's needed. Like, if there's, hey, linebackers had a pretty rough game, he'll spend extra time at them. And despite all the rumors, allegations, accusations, assumptions, whatever else you want to say about Ron Roberts leaving the University of Florida, that has not happened. I told you, or at least I told the Insider program last week, which if you want to join that, the link's in the description below, that I met with Ron Roberts down in Mobile, Alabama, saw him at practice, went to speak to him. And when I spoke with him, he's like, yeah, no, I'll be back. Yeah. And people said, well, if he was getting fired, he wouldn't say otherwise, right? And it's like, sure, valid response. But then yesterday, during the signing day press conference, Billy Napier said, hey, the coaches that are here, I expect to stay here. Which, hindsight, probably a bit of a baller thing to say when you had Robert Bala there. And it's like, hey, the coaches here are staying here, and Robert Bala was here. So just want to say that one. But so Ron Roberts is back as the DC. Vinnie Sunseri has come in as the co-DC / safeties coach. Vinnie Sunseri, of course, spent the first 5 years. He has 5 years of coaching experience, right? First year, defensive coaching assistant with the Patriots. The next 3 years, running backs coach with the Patriots. The year after that, which was last year, he was the Washington Huskies safeties coach. And this year, he's going to be co-DC and safeties coach. He took a DC job with Jacksonville State, and is now going to be instead coming to Florida. I get people get hung up on the co-DC stuff, and honestly, I'm going to stop acknowledging it usually. It's just silly. Like, titles just come for the paycheck. That's it. You could argue this guy should make more, this guy should make less. It's just, we're all wasting our time at that conversation. Like, there's just, honestly, there's no upside to it. It's just a complete waste of time to have that conversation about the co-DC title. Make your life better. Find peace. Choose peace. And stop having that conversation about titles like that. It's just silly. I will say that Vinnie Sunseri is someone where a lot of people on like Twitter and whatnot were like, oh, the PFF grades for the safeties dropped when he was there. I don't give a damn, dude. Honestly, one, I have always said PFF grades don't mean jack diddly to me, so there's that. But two, and I will continue to bring up this point, I think it's way more likely that the roster turnover from Washington 2023 to Washington 2024, which was a lot of turnover, and the defensive scheme changes when Steve Belichick came in, I think those are way better indicators of why safety play dropped or why safety grades fell than Vinnie Sunseri came in and made everyone worse. Little ridiculous. Co-DC now / linebackers coach is Robert Bala. We spoke about him extensively earlier today. excited for it. I've heard nothing but good things about him, so I'm excited to see that one. Defensive line coach Gerald Chapman. It was announced yesterday that Gerald Chapman, a few weeks ago, signed an extension with the Florida Gators. It was also last week or this past weekend, we'll say, Gerald Chapman interviewed with the Chicago Bears for the defensive line coach. And I want to revisit that for a second, just because I spoke about that on Monday and someone left a comment about, stop talking about it. Like they already hired their D-line coach. Did they? Because what happened was they hired a D-line coach, the Bears, hired a D-line coach. Then they said, you know what? You're going to stay hired, but not as a D-line coach. We're going to find a different D-line coach. And then Gerald Chapman got interviewed, and then they hired someone else. So, no, they had not already hired their defensive line coach, but I'm glad that you were loud and wrong. Good job on you. But Gerald Chapman is back. Great addition. Just a killer of a D-line coach. I think he did an awesome job last year. I think he'll continue to do an awesome job. He's a big reason Tyreek Sapp and Caleb Banks both came back. They could have made a lot of money, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. Excited to have Gerald Chapman back. Mike Peterson is your edge coach, outside linebackers coach. I'm going to be honest. I don't think he's a very good coach. I'm going to be completely honest with you about that. I can't lie to myself and say he is. It's just not. Florida has not had the dominant edge presence that they should have or that they used to have. We have seen multiple edge rushers leave the University of Florida and then go on to have much more success elsewhere, which, like, you could say whatever you want about the players, but the fact that it continues to happen is kind of interesting. At least I think it's kind of interesting. And again, I'm not even talking just Princely. I'm talking just in general. We've seen that year after year now. It's happened quite a bit. This NFL draft just so happens to have two of them in Princely and Antoine Power Island. There's that. They both got significantly better once they left, specifically at rushing the passer. I'm just not a huge fan. And there are other factors for some of the recruiting successes they've had on the edge that are not just Mike P. Okay. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful at all. It's just when we're talking about, you have a college football playoff roster. I've said that repeatedly. You have a college football playoff roster. It's about getting the coaching to match up to the talent and catch up to the talent. I think that was an easy spot to upgrade. Wide receiver and edge and one of the O-line coaches were easy upgrades for me. You did neither of them or none of them. Bad decision in my opinion. Then there's secondary coach, Will Harris. Vinnie Sunseri is the safeties coach. Will Harris is still the secondaries coach. Coach Rasul is a corners coach, okay? Or he works with the corners, we'll say. But Will Harris runs the secondary, okay? And I will also say this, from what I was told, Vinnie Sunseri was not hired to step on Will Harris's toes or take safeties away from Will Harris. From what I was told, Vinnie Sunseri was hired because Will Harris wanted more help with safeties. It was that. It wasn't him taking anything away from Will Harris. It wasn't him stepping on his toes. It was that he wanted more help, from what I was told. So I can't dunk on the Sunseri hire for that. I will say Will Harris is a fantastic DB coach. I hope that he stays around for a long while because he's doing one hell of a job over there. Had them DBs playing great. And like I said, when he got hired, I was going to be cautiously optimistic about it, right? Because when he was at Washington, it was like, oh, first round pick. So I figured when he was at Washington, it was either he was actually doing the developing and the first round picks were genuinely his first round picks, or he was watching Jimmy Lake do the developing. And so hopefully learning from Jimmy Lake. And damn, they look like they've done a hell of a job there. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow, talk more Florida Gators football. Also, we might have a bonus drop later on today, not involving me. Well, we do have the squad show also, but yeah, we're going to try to get someone from Locked On interviewing Dominique Easley. at Radio Row. So we're going to try to have that. And if we do get that, we'll put it on the Locked On Gators page so you can see that. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.